And I have been in touch with our next speakers, one of which is experiencing some technical difficulties. Kim Fox, who was working, get this, folks, at the pyramids just hours ago, has come across 6 October Bridge to her flat in Cairo, and she's experiencing some data problems. But we will try to bring her on if she can, even if it's just audio. If we can't bring Kim, who is a professor of practice at American University in Cairo, she teaches audio production, podcasting, so she's used to just the sound of her voice and other media-related courses. Both she and her students have won numerous international awards for their audio work over the past few years, and we're really hoping that Kim can join us. So, Kim, I can see your avatar there. So if you are able to pop on with, to turn your mic on and join us, it would be great. The plan B for this, and for those of you doing mobile journals at home with your studio, is I have a mixer here. Oh, there's Neal. Neal's going to come on, and I'm going to tell you what's going on. And Neal, we're going to switch over to Neal, and we're going to try and bring Kim in through a phone into my mixing board. Who knows if it works? But Neal Augenstein, and now I have to say it the American way, is a reporter with WTOP, the all-news radio station in Washington, D.C. In 2010, he became the first major market radio reporter in the U.S. to do all of his field reporting with just an iPhone. And that iPhone went to the museum. Is that right?
It did, as a matter of fact.
Welcome to the program, and thanks for rolling with. And this never happens in radio, right?
Well, that's one of the things about mobile journalism, Rob, as you know, is that you need to always be thinking ahead. You can't just have Plan A. You've got to have Plan B and Plan C, because chances are there's not, there's going to be some technical glitches. As you know, as a radio reporter. There's constant deadlines, and sometimes you're in buildings, sometimes you're in the newsroom, sometimes you're out in the mountains, and you can't really know what sort of signal or data you're going to have available. So you really do need to constantly be considering, okay, here's the best quality if I use Plan A. If that doesn't work, I'll shift to Plan B, and if necessary, I'll go to Plan C. And I think we're at Plan C now.
Well, or are we at Plan A? Because Kim says she's back. Kim, are you there? Can you give us a mic check?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you all well. Can you hear me?
Okay, we'll turn our cameras off, and we'll take you as long as we can. And we know what Plan B is, thanks to Mr. Augenstein. Oh, I said it German. Sorry.
All right. My apology. Where are we in this presentation? Is it just me starting off the ball and rolling? Take that as
yes, you have the comment. Absolutely. I've already introduced you. Everyone knows you're a rock star and that you were just at the pyramids.
Right. We had breakfast at the pyramids, like forget about your breakfast at Tiffany's. Oh, but, and I use my mobile phone quite a bit. I didn't do any video. We did a little bit of audio and obviously took a lot of pictures. So that's my sort of practical use of the mobile device today. But I don't want to step all over Neal, and I think we're pretty much going to go back and forth on this, and I prefer that kind of dialogue. So Neal, feel free to jump in as I sort of present the tips, and maybe you can help out with some of the practical end and how you're actually putting these into practice. Or we can just, try to build out a little bit differently. But I'll tips for using the mobile device as you're recording your narration. And if you don't have a studio, like I think Neal can go in the studio and drop some things at the radio station, but perhaps you don't have anything fancy like that. So what a lot of people have done during COVID is to try to build something like an in-home studio with what you have. That makes it really different from what the professionals have. And journalists who travel often find themselves in hotel rooms to record their narration. And so they'll take the pillows and the couch cushions and kind of MacGyver a situation where you have a bit of a lower ceiling. A lot of people are using their home closets. So those are great places to record your narration. But when we're talking about you actually using it for recording your mobile device, then you want to, I had a presentation, but I'm afraid to bring it up now that I'm having some issues over here.
Yeah,
but
yeah, it's too much data for the pyramids, apparently.
So when you're recording on your mobile device, you want to first like think about your planning and be organized. What kind of phone do you have? What kind of, not only the brand, like is it an Android, is it an iPhone, but what model is it is also going to be something important. And, and what capacity does it have to record audio files and retain them? So if you're not able to, if you don't have enough space on your device, that's going to be a problem. And I'm sure Rob, you all often talk about having the batteries and the storage that you can carry around with you. Those things are really important. Neal, do you want to add something to that about using the mobile device for narration?
Well, of course, Kim, those are all very good points. There are some built-in apps in an iPhone. I use an iPhone, so that's my area of expertise. There are some apps you can use to record digital quality, and of course, most of us are familiar with Voice Memo, which is the basic recording app that's built into all iPhones these days, and also iPads. And you can record digital quality right on the phone. What's great about it is that not only can you do it your own voice, but these days a lot of my effort is in convincing the person who I would normally just do a phone interview with. I will help them learn how to use Voice Memo on their phone so that they will sound digital quality in my reports. I actually send them a little how-to video that walks them through how to do that, because trying to explain that can be a little nerve-wracking, especially for the person on the other end who is who may be saying, "But well, this is radio. We've always just done an interview over the radio." Obviously, we want to step things up a bit, and digital quality is better. So, in addition to Voice Memo for the basic recording of your voice, there's also a great free, if you'd like to use the basic model, multi-track audio editing app that I use called Ferrite, Ferrite, and I think its official name is Ferrite Studio. And you can go in there and do multi-track audio editing. You interview somebody, you pull sound bites, you write your own script, you edit the sound bites, you edit in your voice part, and you can send that to the newsroom. And that's what I've done in the field since Ferrite was invented. So since 2010, I think, that's when I stopped using a laptop in the field, and having the ability to do these intricate voice raps in the field has really freed me up to go ahead and do all the work that I normally would have to travel back to the newsroom to produce. Now I can do it all out in the field and transmit it and get on to the next story.
Wow. I like that, Neal. I do have a question for you about Ferrite. I had been using it a little bit here and there, and I wasn't particularly a fan of using it on the actual iPhone because really the lack of the display, just a small screen basically. But I did really enjoy using it on my iPad. So what are your thoughts, or do you have any tips and tricks for using it on the smaller iPhone?
Well, I actually do prefer doing the editing on my iPhone rather than my iPad. Those are the two devices that I carry. I usually just use my iPad for writing my scripts and eventually writing my web story, because reporters these days are expected to write their web story in addition to doing their radio piece. I actually find that for the basic raps, as we call them at WTOP, which is me talking, adding in a soundbite from the newsmaker, me talking again, a second soundbite from the newsmaker, and me doing my final line, which is about 35 to 40 seconds. I find that doing it on the iPhone is easier than transferring it to the iPad to edit. Now, Apple has made things a lot easier to transfer with AirDrop, and so it is easy. If I were doing a more advanced production, I would transfer the audio from my phone to my iPad to do the multi-track editing. But of course, the reason why we started doing mobile journalism and audio editing in the field is to avoid having to transfer from one device to the other. So, I personally find it easier to edit it on the small phone. And yes, there are times when I hit the wrong when I hit the wrong part of the phone, and it sends me where I don't want to go. But thankfully, it doesn't delete the material when I do that. It's just a matter of zooming in a little bit and getting the edit done.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that insight. I knew you'd be providing that practical use advice for us today, so thank you. I had a comment here about using the mobile device for tape sync like interviews, which you already mentioned. And of course, you're wise enough to say, I do this enough that you record the video. But for those who, haven't seen the video or probably, let's kind of walk them through some of those steps or tips that we can share with them on how to get their teammates comfortable when you're trying to get them to record themselves, right?
Absolutely. Take it away, and I'll jump in as we
go. The two-parter, again, it goes back to where are you? Where are they in their home, or maybe they're in their office. So you want to consider where they're going to be recording their voice, and much like what we do in radio is trying to reduce some. If we were face to face, trying to reduce some of those extraneous noises that might exist. From an air conditioner, for example. We can't do much about the barking dog, as Neal had an example with his dog barking. You get the baby crying. These things you can't control. But sometimes you can get them to put their mobile device on do not disturb, for example, so that the calls don't come in and notifications don't come in. And just trying to maybe ask them, like, what room are they in? Maybe they can go to a smaller room. Yeah.
I find that the placement of the microphone is very important. I'm holding up the bottom of my iPhone right now, and directly to the left of the charging port is the microphone. So I instruct people to hold the bottom of the phone 6 to 8 inches from their mouth, which is what I'm doing right now. So when I voice my pieces, I'm holding it 6 to 8 inches from my mouth. Now there are challenges. When you're mentioning in the room, sometimes I actually have a towel that I keep right here that I put on my desk to keep the sound from bouncing, or I'll get close to a pillow. The idea being that you build as tight an area as possible with as little. The problem is when you're in a big, expansive, empty room, the sound bounces off walls and and then it comes back to your microphone. That's when you get that hollow sound, which is what separates good quality iPhone audio from everything else. So you really do want to get as tight a situation as possible. So that may mean putting your iPhone right against a pillow, or taking the pillows off a couch and just putting your phone right in the crevice of the couch, and putting your script on the couch and leaning in and reading your script that way. So getting as tight a sound as possible without sound bouncing is really the goal. If you're using a home studio, there's something called an acoustic baffle that you can use on your larger phone. I got mine from Amazon, and it makes a big difference. One important thing to remember with when you're asking somebody to do a voice memo interview is that they can't do a voice memo interview while they're on a phone call. So you've got there's a couple of different things that can be done. If the person has a landline, you can make the call and hear each other's questions and answers, and then have them use the voice memo just as a recording device. You can chat with them in Messenger or or Zoom, and so that they can so you can hear the back and forth, but then just record the quality in the bottom of the iPhone in voice memo. One thing that I think most people don't realize, and I think it's a pretty good thing to remember, is that that recording audio in voice memo is going to sound better than recording it on Zoom. And here's why. Zoom, as you know, is a cloud-based, web-based audio, whereas voice memo is essentially recording on the hard drive of your phone. So it doesn't take into consideration the data connection that you have. So the audio that you record in the voice memo of your iPhone is essentially hard drive, and as you know, that's going to be better sound quality than if you have if you chat through Zoom.
I want to build on that a little bit, Neal, if you don't mind. And when I say build on it, I want to say I like Zoom for some of the reasons that you just mentioned in terms of being able to see the person. So not necessarily trying to be dependent on that audio, but then taking those tips and steps that you just walked us through of using that, having them record with their mobile device, and you're going to get that better quality audio that they can then just email to you. So it's like you're having the conversation, but they're also using that mobile device to record the conversation and record themselves, which is really key. The other thing I want to add, Neal, is actually two things. One, if you're outdoors. So if you're actually in the field, you're not at home. Some of these practices we want to put into place are, what's the priority of the phone as you're recording in the field? So obviously trying to stay away from really noisy backgrounds is one thing that you want to try to avoid. And just trying to just paying attention to what you're doing and being organized in that way. If you can manage to have your script available when you're doing that, or if you're just trying to catch some of that nat sound, what we call that B-roll in audio, that nat sound, that's also going to be important for you to gather while you're out in the field. The last thing I wanted to mention is the iPhone headphones that a lot of people have because it comes with the phone. That microphone is pretty decent. So you don't want to just toss that out. However, if you decide to use it, if you have one of the iPhones that has the connection with the headphones, then you know that microphone in the headphones will override the mic in the phone. So that's something that's really important. It's good for you and your narration, but it's not good for you if you're trying to do an interview in the field with that same you having one earbud in your ear, for example, and then trying to take the mic back and forth. That's pretty messy. So you want to try to avoid that scenario. What are your thoughts? So in a pinch, I guess that's what you do, Neal, right? But ideally, it's not the best setup. Yeah.
And maybe the to me the most important and also the most inexpensive accessory for an iPhone recorder is to have several windscreens. And I'm not talking about windscreens that are built specifically for an iPhone. I'm talking about the kind that you would buy at any music store. You can find them online at Amazon for for $4 or $5. These are the windscreens that would fit over the ball of a microphone. You know, when you go to see a concert and the microphone has a ball that's about this big. at the top. What you do is you buy a standard windscreen that's made of foam, and you just slide it over. It has a hole that's about this big and it's stretchy. So you just slide it down over the iPhone, over the bottom of the iPhone where the microphone is, and that protects the wind. Well, as good as an iPhone's built-in microphone is, it's incredibly susceptible to wind noise. And unlike an analog microphone, which will sometimes allow you to record wind and have the person know that it is wind, with an iPhone, it will cause a sort of distortion that will make the audio completely unusable. So buying and having several of these, as Rob is modeling right there, Rob's is, I believe that on your side of the ocean, are they called furry cats or something like that, Rob?
The dead cat? I hope not.
Dead cat, right. But over
You're muted.
Over here we just call them windscreens, and that is what I've used to cover hurricanes, where there's obviously a lot of exactly what Rob is having right there. That you just slide that right over, and
it's really made for the Zoom. So if you're looking for one Luftschutz wind protector to work for, maybe you've got your good Zoom with you, or if you're like Neal, you just put it on there. There you go, and it's really windproof. This one's not $2 or $3 though. This one's a little more expensive.
Let me give you your plan Bs, okay? When you even though you've got, even though I make sure that I have the $4 windscreen in my car, at home, in my Go kit, there are times when I forget it. So here's your backups. You can use a sock, if you don't mind taking off your sock and putting it on your phone. Hopefully you won't have to do an interview with somebody else, but you could use it that way. And my favorite backup was when I was at Starbucks, and I realized I'd forgotten my windscreens. If you fold over a napkin twice, so it's two thicknesses, and you just hold it tight over you just bend it and hold it over the bottom of the iPhone, as Rob is doing right there. It will muffle the sound. It won't muffle the sound. It will block the wind noise, exactly what Rob is doing right there. And that is your plan B, workaround.
I love it. You got to be ready and jump right in. Use what you got.
Yeah, exactly.
So thanks for that tip, Neal. It's a really good one.
Sure.
We briefly mentioned recording apps, and so I want to loop back to that. And I really like to use my voice memo application in the iPhone. And I'm assuming there's something similar in Android. And you mentioned Ferrite. I used to use Voice Record Pro, and I haven't used it in a while, but I liked it because it had many options for using or recording the actual file. Do you want a WAV file? Do you want an MP3? Do you want the M4A? You could record at different sample rates. So that's something, for a free app, that's a lot of variety.
If I can jump in on that one for 1 second, Kim, what I really like a Voice Record Pro for is, as you know, it's easier to share a video file and video on social media, and video files traditionally do better when they're being shared than audio files. What you can do with Voice Record Pro is that if you have, let's say, a 30-second voice report or rap, you can upload a photo that you took of the event, and you can press save to camera roll, and it will make that into a video. and having a video on your camera roll that you can tweet with good quality audio is something that we used to have to do, 6 or 7 workarounds to get to. But having that, you can easily tweet something that people are likely to share.
Yeah, and Instagram too. Putting that onto your Instagram feed or your stories is also going to get some traction for those audiences. So that's a very good tip to share. Appreciate you jumping in with that one, Neal. And the last app I wanted to speak, and one that I haven't used in years, so I'm not familiar with the updates since they were acquired by Spotify, is Anchor. Neal and I are giving you lots and lots of tips on, how to do these setups. But some people will say, just open up that Anchor app and go for it and start to record your podcast. And sort of a one-stop shop is what you're going to get with the Anchor app. And I do know a couple of people who don't have the savvy of doing all the technical things that are involved with some of the things that we're sharing with you, or they just don't want the hassle and would prefer to go a route like an Anchor, where you can, add a little bit of audio, add a little bit of music, if that's what you desire, to your podcast. For example, a music bed at the beginning and the end, and also having to do that distribution part for you. That's also less of a hassle if you're going through something like an Anchor. There have been some other issues people have reported. Again, this is not my firsthand experience, but there has always been concern about the who owns your show, or getting your show sort of cloned via Anchor. So those are just some cautions. Again, I haven't investigated those or vetted those claims, but those are things that I've read about and heard about from others. So I don't know if Rob or if Neal want to jump in and share their Anchor experience, or perhaps if someone in the audience has an experience to share, we can have you all jump in shortly with that.
You're muted.
He was just low, I think.
That's one of the things, is like I started and stopped podcasting in about 2006. So that's why you guys are here. I really don't. I've got it on there. I just it's on my to-do list, but somehow
it's on my phone and I just don't use it.
Yeah, more like that.
I haven't used Anchor very much. I find, and probably the reason is that if we're talking in general terms about podcasts, I am very reluctant to suggest that people just do a podcast, because if a podcast isn't interesting, I'm going to turn it off in the first 30 seconds. It really is. I don't think you should do a podcast unless you have something to say, and something that would be interesting. It's not interesting to hear a couple of guys do inside jokes for a long period of time. Also, I find, as a radio guy, that I want my audio to be well edited generally, and I think the while the hit start part of Anchor is great, and I assume that there's some trimming that you can do here and there, I would rather produce an audio piece and share it. And that may just be my radio training, because for an all news radio station, you have 40 seconds to tell a story. So you have so every word counts, and shifting to sort of a rambling type thing is something that has taken me a while to really be interested in. Rob, what do you have up there on your?
It looks familiar, right? It's a multi-track editor.
Okay.
So why go to another tool if I'm already teaching you, or if I already know how to use LumaFusion? It's got 6 tracks of video. That's mainly what we do, but we also can mix 6 tracks of audio. And the latest version supports audio plugins. So if I need to drop a compressor on it or a limiter to, get that or EQ it, I can do that with plugs that I've already got. And I'm still editing from mobile. I'm just, instead of another app, it's not even plan B, it's plan A. It's like, this is a tool I already know how to use. I just don't need video. So I'll just put a still image on there and I'll mix to my heart's content down here in the audio region. And I can go into any of those tracks and I can do ducking. I can do keyframe animation to bring up the levels. If I've got ISO tracks of me and it's just quicker,
Absolutely.
Like production values are super important for podcasts. This was the thing when I was doing it, you don't see it. It's off mic, but I've got a proper mic here. I've got I've got curtains hanging here. I've got a lot of audio treatment here because I know it's an intimate experience. People are in their cars. They're in their earbuds, and it's a really intimate thing. So you can't have sloppy audio. But this app can do it. LumaFusion, no problem. It's just already there.
Yeah, I think that's good to know, and it's great that we're sharing some options with people in terms of what are you familiar with? If you're familiar with Zoom, go with that. If you're familiar with LumaFusion, if Anchor's your thing, then that's your thing. So at least there are lots of options for people to take advantage of for their workflow and whatever they're working with. The last point I have on my list is organizing your audio file. And this is something that is just, Neal and I both work in radio, audio, and whatnot. It's like, this is 101. You're recording files, especially as voice memos. Make sure you get in there and also label those files so that you know what it is. I think the default for Apple is to give it a date and a time. And, if you're doing things back to back, it could get a little. So ideally, I try to create a system. And if you're using something like Ferrite, I think you also are able to have some folders, which is going to be really helpful to organize your projects. So you want to elaborate on that a little bit, Neal, in your experience?
Well, I think that that organization has never been my strong point. I throw out notebooks when I'm done with them. My note taking is often a piece of paper which is in the back of my jeans, which I find after I take my jeans out of the dryer.
Washing machine.
So I am not the expert on file keeping and keeping things for later. I find that a photo that I take, let's say I take 15 photos of a news event and I tweet 3 of them. I sort of feel like after I tweet them, those are always going to be my 3 best photos. So why do I want to save all of the photos again? I can go back to Twitter and retrieve those best photos later. I prefer to keep my phone free of files, keep it moving as fast as it can, with as much space. So I actually delete things. Maybe someday it'll come back and bite me. But I've never been burned by, I deleted that file and I really needed it now. I think if I need it at the moment, it's important. And if I share it online, I've got a way to go back and research it.
Right. And I think for your workflow, that's great. I mean, if you're working on, say, with a documentary or something that's a little bit more long form, again, my suggestion for naming the files is so that when I airdrop them to my computer, they're just not some random files. I still know, like, what was that? What interview was that? Yeah. There's
a reason why Kim is a qualified professor, because she thinks that way and she understands the importance of it. And I totally defer to her for her expertise on that. I want to share one other tip, and I will after I'm done talking about it, I will include the link in the general chat. By the way, I included the YouTube video, in the general chat that I send to people, which walks them through how to do the voice memo setup. And feel free to send that to somebody. And by the way, I find that telling them in the very first time that you touch base with them that you want to do an interview, the expectation that they will provide digital audio is very important. Don't bother going through the whole thing of getting them to agree to the interview and then spring the thing about the digital audio, because I guarantee 9 out of 10 times they're going to say, oh, I can't do that. I can't. I don't have the time. So if you tell them from the very beginning that this is the expectation, we want to be able to hear you very well, and I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna walk you through the tech. If you send them some video that they can digest for a few minutes, that empowers them a lot, and they'll be more likely to do that. The one other app that I wanted to share in terms of doing interviews is WhatsApp, and in particular WhatsApp chat. What is great about a lot of people use WhatsApp, and they make you make free phone calls, right? Is that what the benefit of it is?
Some of it, yes. You can do the chat. You can do it all in one app. Yes.
Right, but with WhatsApp in the chat mode, I can ask a question of Kim either by print, by text, or by audio, and she can speak. She can respond when I ask the question. It dings on her phone. She knows that I asked a question. She can look at the question. She can answer it. She can hold the bottom of her phone up to her mouth, press one button, and she sends digital quality audio to me. Again, that is equivalent to voice memo. That is not just the web quality, the Zoom quality. Again, this is the better quality audio that we're just trading back and forth. One thing that's nice about that is that you don't really have to coordinate a time to do an interview. I can say to somebody, look, I'm going to send you some questions. I'm going to send you a question on WhatsApp chat. When I know you're driving. When you get there, please answer the question in the chat. But when that person just presses the button, the audio is transmitted directly to me. I get a ding knowing that it's there. I can download that audio, and I've got studio quality audio on my phone that I can share and I can use in my audio report.
That's brilliant.
So I had a lot of success with that during COVID with my students, and a lot of them couldn't get to do face-to-face interviews, and we had time differences, and this was the perfect solution. So,
it is a great, to me, it is great. It is going to be there if you try to tell somebody who is over my age or my age, they might have a difficult time understanding it. So the video that I'm going to post shortly in the chat, you can send that to them. And of course, if you asked a 10-year-old how to do it, they would be able to explain it to you perfectly. But what I just posted right now, that's the how-to on using the WhatsApp to record interviews.
Yeah, and like Rob said, those are really nice and quick sound bites. The only thing that I'll say is that they do come across as M4A files. That's not a big deal. It's just, it is what it is. You can convert it to something else when you get to that point if you need to off of the mobile. But M4A is perfectly fine for what we're talking about, especially from field work and using your mobile device.
Good point.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see. You drop those.
I'm sorry, Rob, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm just saying it'd be interesting. I could do a test with that, just drop it onto the LumaFusion timeline to see if it takes it. I mean, that's the cool thing about a video editor. They tend to eat just about every format of media out there. It's anyways, I'll do that and I'll get back.
Yeah,
to
you can definitely import it into Adobe Audition if you're taking your files from your phone to a desktop for editing or something like that. So the M4A does not complicate anything, and it really is. It makes the file smaller and more portable, and taking up less space on your phone for sure. So that's great news. And yeah, I highly recommend it because it is an easy way to do an interview, especially if timing is a problem. So just to sort of recap some of the things that we've talked about and shared with you all, we talked about using your mobile device for your narration. Of course, talking about tape sync-like interviews, how to say what's set up on a phone call or a Zoom, but then you're going to have your interviewee record using their mobile device, and then the process of coaching them through that process. What space are they in? What kind of mobile device do they have? And we talked about different apps for recording on your mobile that are really useful and helpful for you. And finally, talked a little bit about organizing your audio files and just getting things in a way that you can have a plan to execute. So I think now's a good time to open it up for questions, to see what you all have to ask us.
Hey, can I be first?
Yes, you go ahead, Rob.
I've got my WhatsApp here. And so like, this is what we're talking about, right? You see, my buddy sends me a soundbite, a reply. Are you, first of all, first question is, are you asking your questions in glyphs with text, or are you doing it with the sound of your voice? Because that probably has a difference to maybe how the interview goes. Or have you found a difference?
Well, you can do it. You can do it either way. You have the flexibility. If you were listening to it, you would need to spend the time to listen to the answer before you ask the next question. If you're sending it by text, then you can keep working, or maybe you're listening to one while you're typing the next one. That can help.
Sure.
Pick up the pace, but so there's not one way.
Okay.
There's not one way that fits all. Mm-hmm.
Right, because not every interview is the same either. And second, how do you get the file out of here? If I long press on it,
yep,
all I can do is star, reply, forward, or delete. So I'm stuck.
Excellent question, Robin. I sort of feel like you're just like you're playing the straight man for me.
I'm teeing you up, man, because really, yeah, I love this idea. Okay. I have never done it, so I'm totally
okay. Well, here's what you do, Rob. So hold the picture of the person who you're talking with. Yeah. Hold the picture,
long press.
You will right, and then you get the options to reply, forward, or delete. Press forward.
Oh, press the picture. Whoops, there he is.
Right. Press forward, then you click on you choose. You get the option to choose the soundbite that you want to.
Right. Okay. The blue check mark. You could do multiple.
And then and then actually, I think that you can only do one at a time. So you press you check it. Then in the bottom left, the share arrow, press that.
The box with the up arrow. There we are.
Sorry. No, sorry, that's not the one.
Nope.
Right, it's the box with the up arrow. Press the box with the up arrow, and then that will give you different apps that you can open it in. See, so I press that, and now it lets me open it up right in Ferrite. So I could do the interview with somebody, and if I were in the field, I could just open up that file right in Ferrite.
Or LumaFusion. I just bounced it to LumaFusion. So there's the answer. There's the full Monty.
Right. So you don't even have to transfer it from one device to another. So this is the gold standard when you can do it all on one device.
Exactly. And and then you can follow up with Kim's tip, because that file came over, like you said, Kim, it's all time date stamped. That's the default naming convention for that every developer uses. Because they like to talk about AI, but it doesn't really help. It doesn't automate anything. So log and capture, that's what we teach it as video, to organize so what's in each soundbite. So I would say that soundbite, I would want to say who it is, what's the first 3 words of the soundbite and the last 3 words, and then I can find it if I've got a lot of bytes to organize. But you can rename that in LumaFusion. So as it comes over in the developer nomenclature, you can rename it here. So as you start to work with it, and then when it gets forwarded on, it always comes over with the proper reporter annotation on it. Yeah. And if you're passing it on to an editor, for example, if you're not doing everything yourself. Yeah.
If you're and while we're talking about passing it on to an editor, we have at WTOP, we've found what I think is this is an example of the way synergy works. I told my bosses about how I was able to do a one-on-one interview with WhatsApp. They liked that idea, but they took it to the next step. So now you're able to set up a chat where you've got several different people in the chat, all able to communicate, to trade audio. So in cases, for instance, we're in the nation's capital. We're often covering protests where we've got 3 or 4 reporters out in the field at a certain time. We've got the desk trying to monitor what's going on. We've got the web team looking in and listening to what's happening and reading and seeing photos and using that information. So if everybody gets on the same chat, then everybody can keep track of what's going on. So if let's say I'm in the field and I'm at a protest and I stumble upon some great audio, I will record that. I'll do a roser of myself talking with the chanters behind me, and I'll just hit the go button, and it will transmit to everybody in the chat. So everybody knows at once what I have witnessed. So the web person can take that information and put it into the web story. The editor who's booking the next hour knows what it is that I've stumbled upon, and they can start building that into their hour. Someone else may be pulling sound bites. So it really is a way to magnify. So
you're talking about just having a WhatsApp group, then, I guess is what you're saying. Right. If you have a WhatsApp group, then now you can do a lot more as a group.
Yeah. So
you're sharing audio
rather than one-to-one, we're talking about one-to-many. Which is something that is.
Professor Neal is here.
Exactly. That also goes into the category of CYA, because now, well, I mean, because seriously, if your phone gets damaged by a protester, stolen by a protester, taken by the police, your reporting is in the newsroom, where it's in someone else's hands. Yep, it's protected.
I do want to address this one question in the chat. What to do if the answers get long or short? That's very important. I mean, sometimes you can try to tell your interviewee, like, hey, can you give me a 2-3 minute, kind of response? Some people naturally tend to be long-winded. I don't know if Neal has any other tips for, you're not in front of them, so you can't give them the rap sign or anything like that. So what do you do, Neal?
Well, the good thing about being a radio reporter is that you're able to pick and choose what it is that you want to use. So if they talk for 4 minutes and you want to use 4 seconds of audio, you're the journalist. You get to choose the soundbite, and you can import that into Ferrite and trim that 4-minute interview into 4 seconds of the soundbite that you want. So it doesn't really matter. The person will get the will eventually get into the rhythm. So if you send some questions back and forth, they'll understand what it is that you're looking
and a good reporter will restate the question a different way, and so you'll eventually get the thing that you want, maybe in fewer words. So that's a very good point.
And sometimes what I'll do is I'll say, I know, I'm familiar with all the background, so just tell me your reaction, and that's a nice way. That's a nice way of saying, jump to the soundbite, please.
Yeah, you're right, Neal. I like that. Barbara was asking about the compression in WhatsApp. We briefly mentioned that a little bit earlier about the M4A. That's the compression that we're dealing with. And it's the same as if you were using your voice memos, which is also an M4A file. It's totally sufficient for what we're doing, especially if you're trying to get something to the newsroom and get something on the air right away. It's not something that the listener can hear.
The phrase that I prefer to use is "it's good enough for radio," and we have some people who God bless them. There are some real artists, some people who can make a story breathe. It can get so close to something that you can hear it in a certain way. But on the radio, certainly on a news station, if you can hear it clearly, that's good enough. I'm not saying I would never say use bad audio. That's what and in many cases, unfortunately, if you listen to a lot of radio stations, even networks, there's cell phone quality audio. I always tell people, put down the phone. I don't want to talk with you on the phone. I would like you to trade this audio, this digital quality audio with me. But that digital quality audio, whether it be M4A or Wave, that is good enough for radio, and that's going to sound better than 90% of the sound bites that are on the air.
Right. One more thing that I think we didn't cover, Neal, and it's not necessarily related to the recording on the mobile device. Are you doing any transcribing of your sound bites? That's something that, again, for longer form audio pieces, we would, but sometimes you do that in your radio script too. So tell me about that process for you.
Sure. Well, I'm not sure whether you've been using Otter, OTTER, which it really is amazing in the last year or two how much better the auto to text transcribing has become. But so Kim has just put here otter.ai for transcribing. So you can do that on your phone. You can download. You can transcribe using sound bites that you recorded on your phone, if you're at a desktop, you can do it that way. But I find that is actually part of my workflow is transcribing, and here's why. Radio reporters, and I think TV reporters, it always sounds better if you write around your sound. In other words, know what the words are in your sound bite and fit your script around that rather than vice versa. What write your script and try to fit in sound bites. That never sounds as good. So if you know what the sound bites say, you can tweak easily your script to make it flow well. And Otter is really helpful for that. There are several different apps now, actually, that are doing auto transcribing. Rob probably is familiar with some of those because putting captions on video is becoming a big deal.
Well, yeah. And this is like what you were talking about is like the most time-consuming, labor-intensive thing that's still, and Otter is great. Otter is great, you all. So what I would love, what I told the developers, I'm a beta tester for LumaFusion. I said, look, text to audio is a commodity now. It's so cheap. It's so good, like you said, and it's widely available. why can't we just process an interview clip, just the audio track, and give us that and create that subtitle, and then let us edit just the words and have it cut that would. Yep. Listen, guys, we're getting close on time here. I'm having some technical difficulties. My camera's not working, and I'm going to have to reboot. And that's what happened. Oh, I wish you could see my face. Just like, finally, Kim. All right. Well, who needs me? You got Kim. Except I've got Professor Stephen Quinn, who has been here the entire show.
Great.
He and I are going to wrap things up, and we could do this. We could do this again and again and again, guys. I've got this auditorium, and you know what it reminds me of, Kim? While you're there, now that you can see everything, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to freak you out. I can't show you anything. My camera's not working. It reminds me of the auditorium in on Tahiti Square at AUC. When I spoke at AUC, I'm gonna when I get this up, I'm gonna remind people, because that's the Cairo connection. I've taught in your classroom, and I really enjoyed working with you and your students, and being a distinguished visiting professor. So that was a lot of fun. All right, Neal, thank you so much. Kim, thank you so much. We're out of time.
Great.
Yeah, I've got to reboot and see if I can get things back on air for the next Plan B.
Terrific. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks, Rob. Nice